Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to do a deep dive into Pluto and Pluto energy. Why do I want to focus on Pluto and taking the time and an entire episode to really conceptualize the energy of Pluto and how it is affecting you today? Because Pluto is stationing direct in October of 2025. Pluto has been retrograde since early May, May 2nd to be precise, of 2025. So Pluto's been in its retrograde phase. Pluto is far out. It moves very slowly. It's been in Aquarius for quite some time now, officially in Aquarius since the end of 2024. So we're full on in Pluto and Aquarius energy. And I will remind you about Pluto and Pluto and Aquarius. But Pluto's been retrograde since May, and there has been a significant depth of exploration that I have experienced and I feel on a collective scale. And as Pluto stations direct this month, there will be a shift in energy, but knowing how to digest it, comprehend it, and then utilize it effectively, I think is paramount. It certainly is for me. It's something that I have contemplated quite a bit, and I have started to draw some parallels and feel the energetic shift. One thing I do want to note regarding Pluto, because it moves so slowly, literally it's stationed retrograde at around 3 degrees of Aquarius in May, and it's literally just retrograded back to about 1 degree of Aquarius since May. That's how slow Pluto moves in the sky. So it hasn't moved over a lot of territory. It has been very focused in the first degrees of Aquarius. So just on a personal note, if you're an Aquarius, if you know that your sun or your moon or your ascendant is at like the first handful of degrees of Aquarius, this really impacts you. You can feel it. If you're a Leo, the opposite of Aquarius, and you know you're an early degree Leo, the first handful of degrees, Pluto is directly opposite your sun. Or if your moon is in Leo or your rising is in Leo in the first few degrees, or if you have significant planets in the first few degrees of Aquarius or Pluto, you're really feeling this. And of course, there are different aspects that happen with other planets, trines, oppositions. Well, I talked about oppositions, sorry, squares, sextiles. If you're into your natal astrology and you know your transits, that's happening. But I did want to highlight who may be feeling this even more intensely within themselves. But what is important here is we are in this season where there is something radical, deep, and true formulating beneath the surface. And I don't just mean beneath the surface of life, I mean deep down in your psyche, your subconscious. Personally, I have felt this big revolutionary shift within me for the last handful of months, and it's been loud. Like, my unconscious has been loud, and that sounds a bit strange to say. What do I mean by my unconscious has been loud? I can hear the programming, the deep-seated fears, and it's not that I am consciously living that way or wanting to live that way or buying into the heavy energy below the surface, but I have become consciously aware of the unconscious in ways that have never happened for me before. And it's annoying, it's illuminating, and it is also very empowering. And why I'm focusing here is because on a deeper level right now, if there was ever a time, and I feel this in my bones, in my DNA, if there was ever a time to summon your courage, like your light, your courage, your strength, it's now. It's the time of really equipping yourself with your soul armor, activating your inner warrior of light. That deep place within you that says, I believe. I believe in love. I believe in beauty. I believe in kindness. I believe in people. I believe in myself. I believe in humanity. I believe in the divine orchestration of things. I believe summoning that energy even in the times and days when life is heavy. Life is happening and it's on your plate beyond reproach. It's that time to summon your faith and think of your faith right now as your radical rebellion. And that directly relates to Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius and Pluto, there is this sense of radical rebellion, but thinking of your faith, your spirit, your light, your soul's evolution as your statement of radical rebellion. And what you're arming against in the months ahead, especially because we have some other things happening energetically that I think are going to trigger the heck out of us. And I really wanted to say trigger the shit out of us because that's the way it feels, but I'm going to just go ahead and say trigger the heck out of us even though I just said that. But literally, if if there was a time to arm yourself against disillusionment, despair, escapism, just utter despondency, it's now. It's in the months ahead, especially between October now, and I know we've been doing some of this during eclipse season. You're not This is not new energy to you, but with Pluto stationing direct, it will shift the trajectory and there will be some momentum, albeit somewhat subtle, but there will be momentum, but it's the time to really summon your light. And what is simultaneously happening is Saturn has already retrograded back into Pisces. And Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces on the 22nd of October. And I think I did not mention that in my October forecast. I don't know if it was Freudian or my brain just glossed over it. I will talk more about both Saturn and Neptune being retrograding into Pisces because that adds a whole other layer of fog, escapism, delusion to the picture. And I will take time to discuss that in the next few weeks and dive a little deeper into it. But when you add Saturn and Neptune moving back into Pisces, and you have the North Node in Pisces, we can get very foggy, uncertain, unclear, and then that can lead to things like escapism, addiction, despair, massive martyrdom, victimhood, and self pity. And these things may show up in your reality, but it's the deep belief in your soul. And I think Pluto moving direct is this freaking saving grace and this just dose of energy that may feel subtle, but it's there carrying us through. And Pluto, in a sense, to me, is really demanding this fierce spiritual embodiment and this embodiment of our spirit as we condition the future forward. So now is the time to commit to your spirit, your spiritual path, your light body, your intelligence, and your evolution and ascension. The future is essentially being written right now in your presence, your resonance, your energy field right now. And think of it like your frequency, your presence is casting votes, meaning the way you think, your feelings, your thoughts, your actions, all of that is imprinting the energy field. So when you choose to evolve, you choose to ascend, you declare that that's what you're doing, you choose to trust the unseen momentum, you're adding in more traction, more value, and imprinting the future ahead. And I believe this with my being. And it's funny, last night I had gotten home and, making some new friends, kind of here in Ecuador and, doing things in order to engage and make some new friends. But I went to this meditation last night and then we all went to dinner afterwards. And I had the best time. It's the second time I've done this. I did this by myself without my husband, just to go get out and connect. And I had a really great time and we laughed a lot. We also, talked a lot about spiritual things and meditated, of course. So that felt good. But then we just laughed and connected and got to know each other and had a really good dinner. And I just felt like normal, I felt human. I felt light. I felt silly. But when I got home, and this is what I was in a good mood, right? Like I felt good. I feel like I said, I felt I'm using air quotes right now, normal. I don't know what normal is, but I've just had a little bit of exhale since we've been moving and making all these changes, and life doesn't feel quite steady yet. But anyway, I got home and Dennis was watching um, The Hunger Games. And I'm pretty sure Dennis has read all of the Hunger Game books, and I believe he's probably watched the movies more than once, not a lot, maybe twice, so to speak, but he's read all the books. I've never read the books, and I've only watched each of the films once and probably, like, when they came out at the movie theater. So, I know the storyline, I know the premise about a dystopian society and rebellion and, all the layers of symbolism. I know the theme and the storyline, but I don't remember all the characters and, I now if you ask me about Harry Potter, I know a lot about Harry Potter, but Hunger Games, not so much. But anyway, I got home and he had watched the first and the second one because 'cause I'd been gone for hours and he was just chilling out and relaxing. That's what he chose to watch. So I got home and I saw the last 10 minutes of the second, uh, movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but if you know The Hunger Games, you know. And so it kinda caught me up on the first and the second one just in that last, 20 minutes of the movie, and then I said, "Let's watch the next one," "Fill me in a little bit, get me up to speed, let's watch the next one." And we watched about half of the next one, which is Mockingjay 1. It's when, Katniss realizes she's about to be the face of this rebellion and she's the reluctant hero, and her friend Peeta is being coerced into saying things and that nobody has all the information. And anyway, so we watched about half of it before we went to bed. And there was something really striking in watching that and my vibration. I was in a good mood. I was happy. I felt normal and light. And then I was watching The Hunger Games and this movie, this one in particular, and what I was watching is her summoning her courage and her truth and what she believes in and believing in people and not wanting people to be left behind and going back to rescue her sister because her sister had left her cat up in the room and then worrying about her friend Peeta. Everything was personal. Like there was they wanted her to be this big face and this hero of this rebellion, which it has its own agendas, right? But everything comes back to it being personal. And her courage, and when they were, like, filming all these vignettes for propaganda for her to be the face of the revolution, they're taking her places, and what's his name? Woody Harrelson is like, "Yes, she's always authentic when she's in action, in real life, essentially, and that's when we capture her. She's not an actress, her true presence comes through in real life." And to me, this was so symbolic of the energy that we're in right now. Because for me, when I get passionate and fired up about something and engaged, whether I believe in it and I stand for it, or it's something that hacks me off and pushes my buttons, it's usually personal. It feels personal. And I think the energy we're in right now has a very clear frequency of impersonal and detachment. And that's what I am clarifying for us to safeguard a bit from and be aware of is when we detach so much that nothing is personal. We stand for nothing. We believe in nothing. We engage in nothing because we are too exhausted, too numb, too oversaturated, too distracted. My new friend Tony that I've met here, he was talking about, the United States having weapons of mass distraction, and we was talking about just all of our social media, and he's like, the weapons of mass distraction. You get down here and it's a little quieter, and I was like, "It is quieter down here." Energetically, I mean, we have 3 and 4G down here. Just so you know, I'm operating on 3 and 4G. Energetically, from a Bluetooth, a Wi-Fi perspective, it is a little quieter here. It's also a totally different pace and culture and lifestyle than Western culture. So, yes, those things are happening, but I kind of loved what he said about weapons of mass distraction. And I think all of that distraction ends up dissociating us. And then nothing feels personal. Nothing feels true. And we disengage or disassociate so much. And I am saying that in a big blanket statement because I know all of you listening are deeply personal people. We have real and true things that happen in our day to day life. The loss of a family member, a spouse, a pet, a job, a health issue, love, divorce is happening, calamity happening. Yes, things are personal and real, but I'm asking you, when do you really summon that kind of engagement in yourself? That kind of passion and fight on a spiritual level, and that kind of chutzpah, moxie. This is the time for that. And when I say the future is being written right now in resonance, and that resonance of your presence being your vote, think about your presence as your currency, your energy field as your currency. And that every thought, action, word, decision you make, you're sending signals out into the field. And are we going to choose perfectly or right or wisely? Are we going to be on our best behavior all the time? Absolutely not. My buttons were pushed 5 minutes before I got on this podcast, and I got a little twerked out. And then I just relaxed and said, all is well. Everything is fine. We're gonna like, every signal I send out to the field is not clear and pure and true and passionate. Sometimes it's impatient, disruptive, and upsetting, but the quicker I can recalibrate into intentional living, clear energy, authenticity. Do you remember a few weeks ago in one of the podcasts, I mentioned the study that Dr. Zach Bush did around the frequency, different frequency fields and engagements and interactions, and one of the things that they found in the study was, of course, when people were in gratitude and love and connection, the vibration was really high. But when the vibration and the frequency spiked off the charts, it was when people were authentic. And authenticity usually comes with a little bit of fear, a little bit of passion, some emphasis, some truth, some I accept things no matter what because this just is for me. This is Pluto direct. And with that cloud of Saturn and Neptune moving into Pisces in the North Node in Pisces, that energy is gifting us something as well, but it's going to try to trick us into I just can't do this. What is this all for? I'm burnt out. I'm jaded. Like I can't anymore. I don't care. And like I'm doing something, but it doesn't really matter. That and you're gonna feel that way. I'm gonna feel that way, but I wanna feel that way quickly, be aware of it, and move very resiliently into my passion and into my courage and to my truth and that deep resonance because we're in a collective tipping point right now, and you get to choose which point you tip to. Are you tipping into the fear and the pain and the disillusionment? Or are you tipping into the light, the faith, the hope, the optimism? Which side are you tipping into? And now is that window. It's like a threshold moment where we get to choose courage. We get to choose truth and higher vision. So your sovereignty, your agency, it does matter. And your faith is your radical vote. The radical vote that you're casting as an outlier is faith, faith in humanity, faith in life, faith in God, faith in yourself, faith in fill in the blank. And that's what's going on. So let me talk a little bit about Pluto and Aquarius. I know I'm on a soapbox, but I feel it. And my soapbox is literally my authenticity. That I last night in having a good time with people and feeling normal and then coming home and, watching this whole Hunger Games thing and seeing everything aligned, it was like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is personal. My soul is personal. My soul's trajectory is personal. And how I engage and interact and show up, it matters. I matter. We matter. And I was kind of exhausted the last couple of months. So it was like my mojo was kind of off. I mean, I've been doing a lot of things, but I don't want my mojo to be off. I want it to be on. And even the days it doesn't feel on, I still want that frequency to be permeating beneath the surface. So reminders about Pluto in Aquarius. And I did a whole podcast on this a while ago, so we can reference it down in the show notes. Pluto in Aquarius and what it means. And it's about revolution and rebellion and the future and all sorts of deep transformative truths on a collective scale. But just to remind you, it is about Pluto's transit through Aquarius, which lasts until 2040 something. It's 2043 to be exact, March of 2043. It's about rebirth through innovation, dismantling outdated power structures in technology, governments, community, science, and even spirituality. It's about truth telling serum, truth telling frequencies, uncovering what has been hidden in collective systems. And we can see a lot of that dismantling now. It's about radical individuation. That is probably the biggest piece of it is radical individuation, which is centers around this empowerment through authenticity, soul sovereignty, and the embodiment of our own frequency field, our own truth, our own presence. And of course, Pluto is about death and rebirth cycles. So the death and rebirth cycle with Pluto and Aquarius is about releasing toxic group and community dynamics and agendas and cultivating evolutionary alliances. So, really, a huge theme over the next 20 ish years is you are the company you keep. And what company do you choose to keep? Do I affiliate with people, places, and friendships or relationships that support my hopes, wishes, and dreams? Or do I stay with the crowd that pulls me down, keeps me lower, keeps me in stagnation? And oftentimes when I work with clients and we talk about Aquarius or we talk about the 11th house in astrology, which is governed by Aquarius, that's the house of two things, the house of hopes, wishes, and dreams, and the house of friendships and alliances or communities. And I always know this for myself and other people. When we get into planets moving in the 11th house or you have heavy 11th house transits, I'm like, yeah, this is about your hopes, wishes, and dreams. And if your friendships or the people you surround yourself support those hopes, wishes, and dreams, or they hold you back. And I said, in order to figure any of that out, you got to know what your hopes, wishes, and dreams are. Where do you start? Not with your friendships, relationships, and alliances. You start with what do I hope, wish, and dream? And I think Pluto Direct right now, like for the month of October, because it's going to be standing still in the sky. It stations direct on the 13th, but Pluto moves so slow. It's not like you're going to be like, "What? It's all clear now." Like, that's just not how it works. The whole month of October has opportunity for insights and moments like lightning bolt clarity moments. But the question you want to really clarify this month is what are my hopes, wishes, and dreams? And I love to use the word, what are my aims? My visionary aims, because that is broad stroke. So, visionary aims might be freedom. I want to experience freedom. A big one for me is I want to create from peace. I want to be peaceful and I want to be creative in my peace, not creative from my pain. So, what are your visionary aims? And once you clarify those, and it may take a little bit of time, then you say, do the people that I affiliate with, associate with, do those people, are they on board and motivating me or hearing me or supporting me? Or are these people naysaying or dragging me down or keeping me in an old pattern? That's the big question for Pluto stationing direct. So you set yourself up in the months forward for this higher timeline that you can jump into. And one more thing I want to throw out, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Pluto retrograde and some things to think about as you move forward. But let me just add another wild card into this. And I'm not going to be able to explain it perfectly from an astronomical standpoint, but I'm going to give you the cliff notes. Pluto is what we call right now out of bounds. not all of the planets, but many of the planets at times, they move out of bounds in their astronomical orbit. And what that means is when a planet moves out of bounds, it's when its declination or its distance north or south of the celestial equator exceeds a maximum path of the sun. Did you understand anything I said? Probably not, because I'm not sure I understand it. I can see it in my mind and the ecliptical path and where the planet moves, and it has to do with degrees of planetary motion. But it is an astronomical thing, and at times, like Mars will move out of bounds, Mercury will move out of bounds, Pluto, all not all of the planets, but most of them move out of bounds for certain amounts of time. But when any planet is out of bounds, what it does generally is it operates outside of the rules of the planet or beyond its norm. So think about Mercury. If Mercury is the planet of the mind, information gathering and sharing, intelligence, communication, when Mercury moves out of bounds, communication, it's like all bets are off. Intellect, all bets are off. Wild ideas, insights, intellectual downloads. I'm pretty sure, and don't quote me on this one, but like, for instance, when Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, first of all, he was born with Mercury out of bounds. And when he came up with his theory of relativity, Mercury was out of bounds. And again, if you look that up and I'm not perfectly correct on that, you just go ahead and email me like, Amanda, no, it was when this was out of bounds and that happened. But I'm pretty sure that's actually the case, date wise and astronomically, is when Einstein was born with that in his natal chart. And when he came up with his theory of relativity, Mercury was out of bounds. His genius came through, his intellect, and he put it on paper, and it was, a big ass deal, obviously. So when any planet moves out of bounds, it operates outside the rules. Pluto is out of bounds. Pluto moved out of bounds not that long ago, and it is it is out of bounds to the south. So it's not out of bounds north. That has different operating properties. It's out of bounds to the south. And you think about something moving south of the ecliptical, and Pluto is about death, rebirth, shadow work, transformation. To the south, it's a deeper descent, a more radical descent into the shadow layers of ourselves, the underworld. It is southward bound. It dives us deeper into our fears and our subconscious and our shadow realms and our roots, our lineage. It reveals what's really been buried deep that may not have been able to be accessed before. So truths and taboos and anything that may have been suppressed or avoided can be pulled up from the surface. So there's something really ferocious about this energy in terms of diving deep, facing your fears, doing shadow work. And with Pluto, which is already out of bounds, about to move direct, there is so much wild card opportunity in your transformation, your personal alchemy, your power. And I'm talking about your empowerment, not power struggles, because Pluto denotes power struggles, how you struggle with yourself, how you struggle with your psyche, your own fears. It's time to eradicate those fears and even come with an attitude of, I'm going to not just face my fears, I'm going to eliminate them. And it's funny, I've been using the word annihilation a lot lately, and it came out in this game that my husband and I play called Mexican Train. And I'm like, I'm gonna annihilate you. And I say that with like a lot of jest and love, but also I really like to win. And like, I don't like to just win. I like to win big and all in fun, right? But it's kind of where I allow my like snarky competitiveness to come out, because it does. But I've been thinking about my fears, and they have been coming up. Like, since we have moved here to Ecuador, I don't typically think of myself or see myself operating from fear, because I'm actually quite optimistic, looking for solution, curious. But I know that I have fear program running, and it has been very loud in the last few weeks. Old stuff, and really saying, yeah, you might feel like you're good and you are good, But underneath the surface, you're afraid of this. You're afraid you're not going to be safe. You're afraid you're not resourceful. You're afraid that, everything's going to be good for a little bit and then somebody's going to die. Like that. I can hear that rhetoric and I'm listening to it and I'm like, oh my gosh. But I'm like, hey, I'm ready to annihilate you, to wipe you out. That's Pluto out of bounds, wanting to really expect breakthroughs. And oftentimes, breakthrough kind of energy will be disruptive, but it's necessary disruption. So, your frequency lens here really intensifies for you to be aware of your energy field, your presence, and also to make a choice to rise up and align with your evolutionary frequencies rather than collapse. And I think that's where find myself grappling is I know my spiritual strength. I know what I stand for. I know I believe in the divine orchestration and majesty and magic of the universe. I do. It's been proven over and over and I see it and I feel it in my bones. But there are times on a human level where I just wanna collapse and throw my hands up, and I had a client this morning, and she said it great. She said, "Yeah, like, last week, I just wanted to burn it all down." And I know like, I started laughing, and we were like, "Yep, we know what it feels like to wanna just burn the you know what down." And that's gonna come up in the months ahead where it's like, "What the heck is all this for?" But this is your time to know to summon your personal courage and to use this power surge of Pluto station direct to make a commitment, to really ask yourself how you can align with your faith over your fear, to create forward motion through territory you've already excavated. And that relates to Pluto direct. So looking back between now, October of 2025, or even if you listen to this in November or December, it doesn't matter. Look back to May and look at what fear came up for you, especially around your sense of belonging, where you feel safe and secure in your own skin, where you feel you fit in or where you feel you don't fit in. Maybe the reverse of that. Also, the shadow side of technology and AI. Technology and AI is innovative, amazing. It makes things quick and easy. And we all know there is a shadow side to that where we are either enslaved by it or how it can liberate us. Also, looking at your own disillusionment. Where are you totally frustrated, disillusioned with people, places, experiences, work, your life, whatever it is? Where do you feel completely exhausted or have you felt disillusioned? Where have you, and maybe it's the government, maybe it's the systems, maybe it's politics, maybe it's geopolitics. It can be any of those things, but also look at where you detach. Where have you not trusted your light? Where have you detached? Where have you isolated? And also, where have you lacked courage? Like, where have you lacked courage? And on the flip side, where have you summoned your courage? So look back to May and really ask yourself, um, what you've experienced, what lessons you've learned, and what truths you have uncovered deep down within yourself, because I know that there are probably one or two major truths that you have uncovered and that have started to really permeate your being, because I know that they have for me. And once I've like seen the truth within me, I can't unsee it. And that's the hard part is how do I start to incorporate it and living it with love and light and kindness, but still conviction, healthy boundaries, and faith. So as we move forward, really looking at your actions through a new lens and also asking yourself what you're convicted to and why. What's personal to you? Why is it personal? And what are you gonna do about it? I think the other thing to think about that I'm going to throw as the wild card here with Pluto Direct is magnetizing aligned communities, friendships, affiliations, associations, and opportunities towards you versus feeling like you have to go after them. It's really about trusting the more that you cultivate your inner light, the more that you will magnetize the aligned people, places, experiences that do align with your hopes, wishes, and dreams. So, first, do get clear on your hopes, wishes, and dreams and take the whole month to do it if you need to. You don't have to just, unless you just know right now beyond of a shadow of doubt, go you if you know. But get clearer in that and then start to emulate it from the inside out and watch people, experiences, opportunities start magnetizing in. And by anchoring in your own spiritual technology, and what I mean by that is we use the internet and AI, but the technology is all in here. The more we care for our body, the more healthy we become, the more whole we become. We're really, really connecting with our internet, which has just kind of mind-blowing effects in the network. And I mean our network of people, places, and experiences and what we magnetize in. So I think by being courageous, committing to our spiritual path and our own faith, that we're also activating faith in the collective, that we're choosing hope as a revolutionary act, that we are capable of casting our frequency ballot in the direction of hope and love and light. If there was ever a time to really commit and roll up your sleeves, it's this month and to move forward through the months ahead with this. We're at this collective tipping point, and I can't emphasize enough how important your resonance, your frequency, and your energy field is in the days, weeks, and months ahead. And how can you plant the seed now and really commit with a level of the conviction that you know in your cells, your being, and DNA that you are destined for? Okay, everybody, off my soapbox. Just kidding. Be well, everyone, and definitely summon your courage, summon your light. You were built for this. Take care, everyone.